Two Guys, One Shaker Cup podcast, hosted by Joshua Shaw and Ryan Buckeye.
Josh Shaw, I got to ask you a simple question that it's an important question because my mom used to tell me, and everybody used to tell me when I was younger, that breakfast is the most important meal of the day. So the question for you, Josh Shaw, is: do you believe that horseshit, or do you believe it's true?
Well, if I'm also going to be a good little Midwestern boy and believe what my mom said, I have to agree that breakfast is the most important meal of the day. That's just everybody's told that, right? Or maybe it's just our moms brainwashed us. I don't know. I say that, and I don't really eat that much breakfast, or I don't really like breakfast foods, which is probably like
early, right?
That probably freaks people. Yeah, I'm not like a morning person at all.
You
so
don't
like
fast,
I just
you're
never,
not doing like a 12-hour fast or anything like that, are you?
No.
Okay.
No, I just have never really. I don't know the breakfast foods. I don't know. I didn't grow up like eating a lot of cereal like a lot of people.
God, I feel bad for your childhood. I feel bad, man. Come on, Josh. Cereal's the shit.
Yeah, I watched some people like their obsession with cereal, and I'm like, I like it, but I don't know. I just didn't grow up, I think, eating a lot of that. Mm-hmm. And then like everything else, like eggs and bacon, things are good. I mean, you can make it, but I don't know. Breakfast is like, if I had to choose between the three meals, breakfast wouldn't be the one that I picked.
I mean, you're fucking crazy. Let's just call it what it is. Breakfast is a meal you can have in the morning, in the afternoon, at night. It's good. I mean, I could have pancakes every day of the week at midnight. I mean, I look at The Rock's fucking Instagram channel. He's doing the same thing. But honestly, for me, because it's like, okay, do I want a hamburger now? I mean, at 7 a.m., are you going to have a cheeseburger? No. I mean, maybe
I would like a cheeseburger. I would, yeah.
Where did you grow up? Jesus, no. But it's an interesting occasion because it's something that, you and I have talked about too, but people aren't necessarily eating at home as much. Well, outside of COVID. Before COVID, they weren't. They're eating on the run. But I think there's been sort of in the last several years, a re-emphasis on breakfast. And I can even talk about that from my time at Mills. The biggest project that I had as I was leaving was, how do we develop a product that is around the breakfast occasion? Because, there are soft-baked bars, for instance, in the bar category, which that people are consuming for breakfast. But cereal was so cereal is like a billion dollar business, right? Like it takes up a huge part of the grocery store. And even though it's been declining year over year for like the past 10 years, it still accounts for so much in sales. You're not going to just like get rid of cereal. I happen at 34 years of age to love cereal, and I have it before I work out every single day. But in the health world, it's interesting, especially in our space. It's like, okay, we typically develop, obviously there's the pills and powders, and then we talk about functional foods, which is always like on-the-go snacking. That's really it. There's not necessarily, unless we want to bring into some of the meal prep services, we should talk about that too. But even those primarily focus on like midday meals and evening meals. You don't see a lot of breakfast type meals, and it's interesting because I think there's an opportunity that exists in the market, a white space, for some brand to attack that and to win in that part.
Yeah, I think we'd mentioned in an earlier podcast around just going through the different aisles and looking at them and thinking about, how can I reinvent this? So if you are a active nutrition company and you're thinking, let's go to a bar, and that's your default, or let's go to a ready-to-drink protein shake or energy drink, like everybody's doing that. So like, how do you differentiate yourself? How do you look at some different options to create something different? And breakfast is one of those occasions that doesn't really get attacked, I think, a lot with our space, at least directly. Like indirectly, there's a lot of the, just have a shake, or, add some protein powder to your oats, or like, it's all kind of you do it yourself type of a situation, or maybe it's just a replacement, I guess, is a situation, but nobody's really attacking it in a direct way. And what I've noticed, I think, over the last year, and I think a lot of this probably has to do with COVID and just the amount of time people are spending at home. I think the surveys or something said like 10 to 20% of people are eating at home breakfast more. So they're spending the time to actually prepare their meal. So that might be like, to your point, like pancakes or making bacon or doing something that's a little bit more than just like grabbing a snack bar, running out the door and eating it while you're on your commute, because the commute is not really there. And kids are not necessarily even having to go to school now. So you have like that time that you could put in there that where you normally would probably transport either yourself or your kids to school or to work, and you have that extra time. So a lot of people are using it for breakfast. So you're seeing companies in our space now start to look at this, and now it's coming mostly from the biggest companies, which is a little bit sad, I guess you could. Why should a big company be the one that seems to be the one like kind of disrupting these spaces? And why this kind of brought everything, I guess, to light was, and I don't know if you saw this or not, but Premier Protein launched a cereal, a high protein cereal that's I think only at Costco right now. But obviously,
the price point on that by any chance?
I don't know exactly what that, but you think about, obviously they're still owned, I think 70% or so by Post Holdings. Post has a ton of different cereals, obviously, so they have some capabilities in house to do that. It's kind of funny to think it took them this long to do that, and they are kind of disrupting that space in a little bit different of a way. Now we can look at, people could say there has been some people trying to disrupt cereal for a while, like the Magic Spoons or the Schoolyard Snacks, or maybe even like the Highkey Snacks that do the keto version or whatever. But a lot of those are small in comparison to the Kellogg's, the General Mills, the Post, the big three cereal giants. They're selling billions and billions and billions of dollars worth of cereal. And then you have somebody coming in there at that size that's actually got distribution and not just selling online and not just selling direct to consumer. They're selling it literally at Costco, where millions of people are coming through there to check things out. And it just kind of, to me, I'm like, okay, are people going to start to pay attention more about the breakfast occasion? Or, are these brands going to finally wake up and go, wow, we've just been blind to this whole area for so long. We've just been trying to put the puzzle together and tell consumers just to put some protein powder into your oats and you're fine.
Premier's got a big brand presence in Costco with their RTDs the way it is, right? They have a huge section of that. So they have brand recognition within the Costco world, which is great. But it's interesting because at General Mills, there was a special top secret project within the cereal unit that they were working on a high protein cereal using whey protein isolate. But their price point was like $8 a box, something like that, which might not be crazy. You look at and not to say that brands haven't tried this, right? So MPA Subs, a brand that I work with, makes a product called Isopoofs. It's a low-carb, high-protein cereal. They have an apple cinnamon French toast, I believe, or an Apple Jacks flavor. They have some good stuff. Then they have also kind of transitioned into jalapeno cheddar for snacking, but they've attacked it. Now, they might not have the brand equity needed to push a product like that in terms of dollars and sales, but I very much enjoy it, and I think it's good. You also... even look at Kodiak cakes. When did they launch, right? They launched, I don't know.
It's probably I actually think, Kodiak cakes, I think, has been around for a long time, but I think a lot of people didn't catch wind of them until recently. I think they were on Shark Tank, maybe.
Yeah, and I think that was within the last 5 years.
Honestly, I think I remember listening to a podcast where literally it's 20 or 25 years old, but it took them 20 years to make $1 million or something like that. It was like a at home mom's recipe type of a situation where then eventually it kind of caught wind. But that's a story in itself, probably, if anybody wants to pay attention.
But look at how big that company is now. Now they're making muffins and 12 different variations of pancakes, a healthier for you. They attacked an occasion that was lacking healthy food. So if you think of breakfast, and we talked about this, it's cereal or eggs. Eggs are absolutely extremely healthy. So I think a lot of companies are okay, well, there's already eggs and they're dirt cheap, $1.49 for a dozen. How are we going to compete with that? Not everyone wants to eat fucking eggs every single day. People want to mix it up. Now, there's 2 brands to highlight here that kind of in recent times too, besides Premier, use the term breakfast or cereal, I guess. Right, you have cereal milk. People consume cereal milk flavored proteins, but I know Redcon tried the BAR, the breakfast at the ready. It was using cereal within a bar. They discontinued it. Okay, so that bar lasted maybe a year, over a year or two. They just discontinued it here Q1, and now Mark Lobliner with the Outright Bar with his coffee flavor. I can't remember the exact name of it. Going after the word breakfast, and it tastes very breakfasty. But again, that's a snack that you can have all day, every day. I don't think anybody's really hitting it hard, and I don't know if it's because it's a space that they're unaware of, or they don't have much education in, or they're probably okay, that doesn't really seem to fit with a sports nutrition brand. But you could look at, these are sports nutrition brands that we're going to talk about, like Atkins and Premier Protein, and these big ass brands that are in Walmarts and Targets of the world. They're attacking it. So why are we not doing it in the smaller companies? Do you think, Josh, from your consulting mind, is it just because they don't have brand equity. They don't have the pull in that category to make a wave. They don't think sports nutrition stores like, Vegas Discount or Natural Body or Nutrition Factory, whatever, would bring something like that in.
That might be the case. I mean, I think that it's a low unit economic type of a situation. So, could be under $10, but you're thinking about most of the products in our category, they're at, $30 price points or something like that. So maybe it's just that, it's not worth, sometimes maybe the juice isn't worth the squeeze, I guess. I also think it's just, different manufacturers, different, different parts of the store equals different merchandisers equal different, things that you have to pay attention to. Your competitors, like we said, are pretty consolidated, I guess, at the top. They have most of the share. So then it's like, okay, maybe it's just a matter of let's pick something a little bit easier. But I think there's different ways to obviously attack it. It's not necessarily that you have to come up with a cereal that's already complete in terms of like just the cold cereal. You could do like what RX Bar does with like their RX Oats. They do a version of the oats, which literally is probably just packaging what all brands are already telling their people to do. Like,
just Kellogg's already making that they're repackaging.
Yeah, add a scoop of this and do that, whatever. It's like you could have packaged that if you wanted to into an occasion. That could have worked out well. To your point around, some of those breakfast bars and things, like people haven't really went all in, I think, on that occasion yet. It's all still very much like the protein bars over the, breakfast occasion. I had a few of those BARs and I thought they were good. I think they didn't really age really well. So that was probably part of the issue, is that I think they got a little bit aged too quickly. Maybe that's just a matter of them having to reformulate some of that stuff and come out with it. But I thought it was at least a little bit of a unique situation. But the category as a whole, we talked about Kodiak cakes, but if there's like the other side of that on the more natural side is like Birch Benders, which they just got acquired last year for a few $100 million. Kodiak cakes cakes will probably be acquired here soon, because it just makes sense. Like why a company I think is $200 or $300 million in revenue at this point. So it's like you can't really let those guys sit out there for all that much longer. But even like Premier Protein, they just launched a protein and oats RTD, which again, companies have had protein oat powders for a while. I think Optimum Nutrition, I think maybe was one of the first ones long time ago. And now you have a lot more.
Product, but I think
I did too. Yeah, I thought it was
good.
Great. For me, I think when it came out as a poor college kid, I'll just buy the bulk oats myself and just add it to myself. I couldn't justify spending the extra money to do it, but I liked it as a product, and I think a lot of brands have replicated that. I don't know to what extent. I'm sure it's not very good seller comparable to like some of their basic whey products or things like that. But even that little iteration of an RTD with some of that, it then adds a different, I guess, spin to it. And you can even see this even if thinking about RTDs with just like a coffee plus type of a product. We talked about like the super coffees where like there is the MCTs, there's the, few, I think 10 grams of protein, but even like Atkins has a cold brew plus protein. You have like these companies that are starting to think like, okay, if we add certain breakfasty type of a situation, naturally a consumer is probably just going to consume those at breakfast. Now that adds an extra use occasion or so then they're going to buy that, plus they're going to buy another flavor that they're going to use after their workout. So now we double dipped on something over just, hey, let's keep coming out with flavors, and then you're just basically cannibalizing itself. People can only drink so much if you're not increasing the use occasions. It's to me, I think it's just one of these things where I would like to see a lot more brands in our space start to think about breakfast a little bit differently. You even said like the egg thing,
right?
Why not come up with something unique in terms of, it could be egg white powder type of a situation, could be, I don't know, but there's got to be some way to like attack these in a more, I don't say sports way, because I'm sure there's ingredients or things that you could add into it that from a nutraceutical side that would help maybe, your blood sugar levels or things that would be appealing to consumers if you could spin it in a marketing way. It just doesn't seem like brands really are even like conceptualizing these ideas.
I think they have a hard time getting off the powder kick too, though. I mean, obviously, like that's what they are. They're a powder company. But I just go back to think about all the brands that have tried pancake mix. Like Rise and Outright, Sinfit Labs or I mean, everybody kind of came out with, and they were all pretty much made from the same fucking company, and they just repackaged them differently. But they were priced so high, and like at that point, if I want to spend, I don't know if they're like $12 a bag for 4 servings, or I can go to Costco and buy a big box of Kodiak cakes, which says protein on the thing. And intuitively, I'm thinking, okay, this is the same fucking thing. It's not the same thing, but I'm not going to spend 4x for this for half the servings or 4 servings. So price is going to be something that they're going to have to figure out, and that requires volume runs, which then requires a huge commitment of being extremely nervous of whether or not that's a good play. Because think about the brands that are out there, and like, unless you've crossed over into CPG world or into like FDM world, it might be very difficult to have that conversation, because it's like, okay, well, I don't have placement in an HEB. I don't have placement in a Target. Doesn't make sense for me to attack breakfast but it's 2021. We live in a digital world. There's got to be a way to drive, drive awareness and drive traffic and drive conversions to your website surrounding the breakfast occasion. I mean, you could literally run targeted ads, specific time periods of day. The first thing people do when they wake up in the morning is they check their cell phones. So you might be able to hit people right away in the morning. They're not going to be able to have your product that day, but when they wake up and they're hungry and they're looking through Facebook or whatever and they see the product, they might just make a quick, rash decision to purchase it and then expect it to be there a couple days so they can have it a couple days from now. But again, I guess the $1 million question is what's the product? And now, if you're listening to this podcast or watching this podcast and you're thinking to yourself, God, these guys are right, but what's the product? And you can't think of it, hire Josh Shaw. He'll bring 6 product ideas for you. And out of 6 product ideas, 5 will fail and 1 will be good. It's kind of like the George Foreman grill, and Hulk Hogan got like this shake thing or something. George Foreman became a millionaire off his, and Hogan got nothing. So you got a lot of Hulk Hogan ideas, Josh Shaw, but I know you have a George Foreman idea in that head of yours somewhere. What would Josh Shaw do?
I got to get lucky every once in a while and get one of those George Foreman deals, because he's making he's probably still, that thing is still selling
for sure
all these years later. And then Hulk Hogan's over there just trying to sue magazines and stuff not to post things about him. So
what you gonna do, brother?
What different paths they took. Different paths they took, all because of that invention. It was right. Just one invention did everything. I don't know exactly, and I think this is probably very nuanced to the brand, because if it's a brand that maybe has some connection to nostalgia or whatever, that probably makes it a lot more easy to kind of attack an old breakfast favorite as a kid and kind of remake it in a way to make sense. I mean, even at this point, sports nutrition brands, they have the flavors and things like that. And that's probably the inching themselves in there, but they can obviously take different food form and try to make sure that they can create that same experience you had when you were a kid. And then, if you're a legacy brand or something like that, it's like you're probably more trying to figure out how do you make something that aligns to your brand, I guess, the closest possible in terms of like your scale, your distribution, what you could do. I would probably look at snackifying the cereal type of situation. So taking it and kind of making it dual use, I guess, in a way, like, don't back yourself into a corner, I guess, of just making sure it only has to be used for breakfast time. Maybe it is used for breakfast. Maybe I still like snacking, because I think right now snacking's down a little bit because of the mobility of consumers are not out there. So the on-the-go snacks are not doing as well now. The healthy snacks that people are just picking up at their pantry and eating, those are high. But I think that if you are going to go in a direction like, I don't know, I saw recently like cereal, they kind of made it 4 times bigger than it was. Like it's bigger, but it's in the snack bag instead. So you're eating it. It's not these little crunchies, it's something bigger than that. So maybe you could do something like that, or maybe you can, something that's, I don't know, figure out a way to snackify it in a little bit better of a way. I think that you then at least give the opportunity to be both directions. I think between like, if it was Magic Spoon and Schoolyard Snacks, I think Schoolyard Snacks took an approach where they were kind of individually bagging their product. So then you could actually break it open and kind of just eat it by your hand, where like Magic Spoon was just traditional big box. You had to pour it into a bowl or whatever. So that even makes a little bit of a difference of how a consumer might pick it up, or maybe they're not really sure if they're going to like it as a breakfast item or whatever, because, maybe there is some deep, dark thing that you don't want to like ruin breakfast or that cereal, because I don't know if you've had I'm sure you've had since you said you worked with one of the brands, but I know I've tried a few of these like high protein cereals and things. And though I'm not a cereal connoisseur and I'm not the best probably taste buds of a palate of a cereal eater, I eat it and I'm like, this ain't good. It's not good.
No.
Like, it's not.
It's dry. It's people like it when cereal gets soggy and stuff too, like in milk, and sometimes other stuff just doesn't. It's hard. But it's interesting, like the dual use, right? Like snacking on cereal was one of the biggest uses from consumers in my consumer research when I was at Mills. It's like, we don't eat this in a bowl of milk anymore. We take it in a Ziploc bag, and my kids take it to volleyball events. And, I'll have it in the car, or I'll have it midday snack because it's just, it's easy. It's small, it's snackable. And, you said snacking is down, but it is being replaced by other things. So, I'm looking at the brands that already have stuff out there, and it's like, okay, well, how can you take what you already have and make it more attractive then? Because you don't need to reinvent the wheel. It exists. It's out there. Brands are doing it, but how come why is nobody seeking out this information? I think we just do a poor job as brands of communicating what it is. Like, maybe we named it incorrect. Like not to take anything from Mitch and MPA subs, but it's called ISO Poos. I don't know. Like, maybe just a naming convention. Maybe it's just a simple name change that makes it very intuitive in terms of what it actually is. Like ISO Poos. Okay, what? Maybe it's a cereal, but like the ISO is obviously a play on isolate, but you don't necessarily need to use the word isolate or protein in the name. Like you can make it fun, and then obviously work on pricing where you can. But I'm also like looking in our spaces. I look at a brand like Lenny and Larry's. Now, say what you want about Lenny and Larry's. They're killing it, or they've killed it. They are a huge company. They make cookies. They could be a brand that could attack the breakfast occasion in like a soft bake, oatmeal type of a thing. They're in prime position to do so, and maybe they're working on it. I don't know, but that brand, and I think people will be like, well, Quest tried it, and I think Quest did try some sort of breakfast bar, and that failed. But I believe Quest tried their breakfast bar very early on, and I don't know if Quest did it today. Quest did a fucking pizza, for Christ's sakes, and it's popular. So, like, why can't they do a breakfast bar correctly? I don't know what happened there, and maybe you do, Josh. But like, I look at Lenny and Larry's and say, okay, you already have like soft sort of protein cookies. If we want to, like, maybe people are going to take time to eat a whole meal on breakfast, what can we still give them that might include, it could be blueberry. It could be the flavors of breakfast. It could be maple. It could be cinnamon, whatever it is. But I think that they're a good brand that could do something in that space.
I agree. I think that Lenny and Larry's would be a good brand. To your point around Quest Nutrition, I think there was a lot of products I think they launched before they got acquired that probably just didn't get the time and effort from like the R&D team. That they were launching a bunch of things. They were kind of like catching a lot of that fire, and everything was growing. Anything you launched, it was doing okay, but it didn't do as well as it could. Point in case, like the peanut butter cups, like when they launched those things originally as like a keto product or whatever it is, they were dry as shit. Like you literally eat, They were like, they're sawdust. You'd eat those things. And then now I try the new ones and I'm like, these are better than Reese's. Like, I feel like that's sacrilegious to say that. And I'm like, oh my God.
Well, you're crazy. They're not, let's be real. Josh might be high right now. They're not better than Reese's, but they're close. They're close.
They're as close as you're going to get to
exactly.
Any
they're
product.
Great.
Like, honestly, like anybody that says, oh, mine tastes like this, I always go like, doesn't at all.
No.
Literally, when they sent me, I was like, what the heck? This is amazing. I was like, I don't know how these are going to age. Hopefully they age great. But think about that now. I think now they have a better structure of their just portfolio of the company. Now it's a $1 billion company combined with Atkins. You have a lot more like corporate staff. You have a lot more people that on the Atkins side, they understand different products, different ways to get maybe confections or to your point, maybe something around the cereal. Where like now I bet they probably go after that or in some way, because I think that they're looking to become a platform brand. I think there's very few brands that have been able to do that. Be it like a Kind Bar, be it like, Quest Nutrition. I think Lenny and Larry's probably could do it if they wanted to. It's just they haven't really went in there. But there's very few of those that can do it. I think that Quest, if they were to go and attack breakfast, they probably could make something really cool and really interesting. You just don't know. But overall, the category, I think you can just look at it from so many different ways, and even like you think about probiotics, or we use a lot of those types of things, and a lot of it comes from maybe yogurt or something like that. Is there a way to integrate something even from the yogurt aisle or maybe a beverage. People are taking more of those natural kefirs and things like that, but like nobody's really taking a spin on that in a way that's more sports or active or whatever. Can you combine a few of those things together and it makes sense? I don't know, but I don't think anybody's really been thinking about it right now. I mean, those might be terrible ideas, but those are at least ideas that are pushing things forward over just let's come out with another whey protein powder. Or let's come out with another pre-workout.
What's interesting is you bring up yogurt. Obviously, no one in our space is going to do yogurt. It's so fucking complicated, and it's hard. Okay, so we thought if you thought you were smart when you were trying to do ice cream, that yogurt is just a different animal. Like it is. It is unbelievable.
Is it worse than kombucha? Which one's?
My God,
those like active like whatever you want to call them,
right.
Microcosm, whatever. Those things are crazy. I think you probably would need to really have some people that know science, not just like pseudoscience, but like real science.
I just remember like the horror stories about yogurt when I was at Mills and just like how much of it is written off all year because it's anything refrigerated, right? But what can you create that goes along with it? Granola, right? Like granola. Now, granola's. I know what's going to happen, Josh, is people are going to listen to this podcast and say, well, that's not sports nutrition. Why can't it be? Like, why can't you? I mean, if your answer to this is like, well, that's not sports nutrition, well, it's your job to change it. Like, nobody says that this has to be, right? Like, I mean, there might have been before the first protein bar came out, somebody probably said, well, that's not sports nutrition. They found a way to make it sports nutrition. So granola, whether it's grain-free or, sweetened with fruit, not, like whatever it is, using monk fruit so it doesn't have high sugars in it. Maybe there's added pea protein or whey protein to it. Like, one of the best-selling SKUs of granola, I shit you not, Nature Valley's protein granola is like leaps and bounds. They have so I ran the granola. I'm going to go on a tangent here because I'm pissed, but like I ran the granola category at Mills, and I wanted to do a protein granola on my side. So we tried a vegan one, and it was hard to do because the pea crisp at that point tasted like shit. Long story short, out of the top 5, I think it was, of Nielsen data, SPINS data, 3 of the top 5 were Nature Valley protein granolas. Like, that is a spot there. Why can't we go into that route? Like, you could do it. I mean, just because you've been traditionally making pills and powders doesn't mean you can't make something that's not in that product for it. Obviously, it should be on brand. I can't imagine, like, I don't think a Redcon or Blackstone or some of these hardcore quote-unquote bodybuilding brands could maybe do it. But, I mean, I think there's enough soft brands out there that it would work if they decide to go that route, whether they do it grain-free or maybe there's a take on it. I don't know, but like that, like Josh says, with yogurt is consumed by a shit ton of people. It's consumed by a lot of people in the health world because the presumption is like Greek yogurt is super healthy for you, and it can be, but it also can be unhealthy depending on the kind you get. But again, so I guess my point is it doesn't have to be a direct product that's consumed as an individual standalone. It could be something that complements a breakfast product in today's market that can do really well.
Yeah, I was even thinking about what is that stuff? It's like bodybuilding baby food, which is like cream of wheat or cream of rice or like that.
Like rice and grinds. We should get Sean. We should get Sean here from Pride Foods because that brand is still growing. He just got his own distribution center, but he made flavored ground up rice, and it's doing very well. I speak to him quite a bit because our products complement each other very well. I'm proud of him. It's cool to see.
Yeah, it's got some unique. Like I think that's just taking a little bit of a spin towards it, but even taking it one step further, like. His customers are using it in a certain way. Maybe they are eating it standalone. Maybe they're adding something. Maybe they're eating egg whites with it. Maybe they're, whatever. Maybe it is just to add literally 100% egg white powder or something in there to whatever. You can make those little small iterations about these products. I mean, literally, like we said, you walk down every aisle and there's going to be some subcategory or something that you're going to look at and you go, these brands have been around for 50 or 75 years. And these are the same ones that I remember when I was a kid and the same ones that probably my parents remember as kids. And it hasn't changed at all. This is a totally different one than breakfast. I guess maybe unless we were Asian, but you think about the noodles, the cheap, what are those? Why am I thinking about now? I'm totally losing track of it. Like the
ramen?
Ones like the little pack of those ramens that cost you 10 cents. I literally saw the other day that somebody took that and basically premiumized it to a point where now it's like this experience, but very much the similar pack that you do that. But somebody could have looked down that aisle every day and would have said, There's nowhere we can go with this. This brand is crushing it. There's only one that's really doing well. And what am I supposed to do? It's super cheap. Nobody's going to ever change it. Really taking the time to like think about, there are a bunch of consumers that are out there that are not getting served, and they've moved on. And now they maybe have too fancy of taste buds, or maybe they have, different needs, dietary needs or things like that they're not getting served by those traditional products. So you might not find $100 million laying on the ground, or you might not find $500 million laying on the ground, but you might be able to find $5 or $10 million laying on the ground that people just scrapped, they're leaving out there for you. So I think that if brands looked at it maybe in realistic senses, like, hey, how much can I actually make out of this brand or sub brand or product extension or whatever the heck they want to do, and just think about it as like, oh, this might be a $10 million product line. Hey, I'm telling you, there's a lot of people in our space that would be glad to have a $10 million product line, but they're overlooking it because they're like, well, I don't know if it's going to be worth my time or whatever. I guess I tell people to this year in 2021, if you haven't listened to us in 2020 and 2019, at this point, we're going to tell you, keep like trying to push the limits. Like, stop just doing the same shit. It's like, we're tired of it. The consumers are tired of it.
Here's my free advice for anybody listening to this, because I've been asked to make them a million times and I don't know how or where to start. And the competitor is extremely economical, but do a take on rice cakes. Somebody out there do a take on rice cakes. You can make some money. I mean, if you can somehow make them economical and not have to charge an arm and leg for them. Obviously, they're not free by any means. But if you can do that, you're going to be doing well. So love to hear people's feedback on this breakfast occasion. Is it something that your brand is thinking about? Is it something that you've thought about? And if so, like, what's your hesitation? What's holding you up? I think that would be the interesting part, because I think everybody has a different reason for why they don't, instead of finding the reason why they should. And I'm not sitting here trying to, and I don't think Josh is either trying to say it's going to be easy, that if whatever you create is going to make you $1 billion because no one's thought of it before. It's going to take consumer education. It's going to take some time. But it could very well turn out to be a very lucrative thing for you if it's done correctly and it serves a need and a white space that's currently being underserved or not served at all today.
Great.
If you guys liked what you heard here on the podcast, hit that subscribe button. We're on Spotify. We're on iTunes. You can watch via YouTube. Check us out on social media, 2 Guys 1 Shaker Cup. Leave us a review. Helps out that algorithm as well. But until next time, it is the man himself who fucking hates breakfast, Josh Shaw, and myself. Everybody have fun.